You like that? You like this little mug? It's a Freud mug. He's on the couch, free associating with his therapist. Hey, welcome back. We're going to talk about the psychodynamic perspective today, and it's pretty crazy. It's one guy, Freud, who's a total genius and has dramatically impacted psychology for the past century and will certainly continue to impact the way all of us understand humanity and how we work. So I'm just going to tell you about it in about 5 minutes, if that's possible. Okay, so it's Freud and psychoanalytic perspective, but you should know that over time, as the theory modernized after Freud died, it became known as the psychodynamic perspective. So psychoanalytic, psychodynamic, they're about the same. Psychodynamic is slightly more modernized. And they got rid of a few of Freud's more unusual ideas, for instance. Okay, let me fix that. All right. Where do we want to start? Let's talk about why Freud had a huge impact. I'm saying he's this genius, had this huge impact. Well, there's three main reasons. The first is that he came up with a comprehensive theory of personality, why we are the way we work, why we are the way we are. And his basic theory was that things happened to us when we were real young. They were in our unconscious mind, and that affected us as adults. First, comprehensive theory of personality. He developed a theory of the unconscious mind, which he expanded that more than anybody ever had. And people still understand it to be true. The unconscious mind being the part of our mind that we are unaware of. And he developed the ideas of defense mechanisms. Okay, so first comprehensive theory of personality, unconscious mind, defense mechanisms. So his theory of personality depended upon his theory of the mind. So he thought there were three parts to the mind: the id, the ego, and the superego. And the ego was sort of the part that was rational and that kind of balanced between the other two. So the other two, the superego is your sense of morality, your sense of right and wrong, and the id was your aggressive sexual hunger impulses that were largely in the unconscious. So the id was always trying to be realized and immediate gratification of those needs. The superego was trying to balance it with your sense of morality, and your ego was trying to figure out the reality of the situation. So the ego, for instance, it said that it's real. Sorry, my tongue's a little tied. All right, I'm talking fast because I want to get everything in, so I'm going to try to slow down. Okay, so the ego balances the superego and the id according to the reality principle. So if the reality is that you're a football player and you're a linebacker and you're in the game, it's okay to be really aggressive. If you're that same linebacker and you're in class and it's third period and you're in AP Psych class, it is not okay to be aggressive. So the reality of the situation, that's how the ego operates. Now, one of the things the ego does to help protect us is that it uses defense mechanisms. So when there's something harmful, feelings or thoughts, something that's going to be difficult, something anxiety-provoking, something traumatic that we can't handle, the ego is going to step in and protect us. Well, how's it going to do that? What it's going to do is take that harmful thought and shove it down in the unconscious mind. So get rid of it, basically, by shoving it into the unconscious. Now, that simple fact, that's a defense mechanism. And the most basic defense mechanism is repression. All the other defense mechanisms begin with repression, shoving it out of the conscious mind. Okay, there are a few other defense mechanisms that I don't have time to go over in this video, but you should know. Regression, rationalization, displacement, and projection. There are more than that, but I would know those for sure. Okay, so the unconscious mind is the part of the mind we're unaware of. Freud thought it was frequently driving our behavior, that forces in the unconscious mind were driving our behavior. So a question comes up. If these unconscious forces are driving your behavior and you need to work through some issue in therapy, how can you work through it in therapy if it's unconscious and we're not aware of it? I know you were probably thinking that, and that's good. So Freud had a theory, a way to do therapy called free association. So he thought you could free associate, which would be to lay on the couch, relax, and just say whatever comes to mind. Okay, that's harder than you think because normally we filter our verbalization of our thoughts. We don't say things that are mean, aggressive, sexual. Sometimes we do, but we don't do it nearly as much as we're actually thinking about those things. So Freud thought that by relaxing, saying whatever comes to your mind, and if you could actually do that, if you could turn all those filters off and just let it go, that would reveal the unconscious. So that was called free association. Some other people in the psychoanalytic perspective developed some tests called projective tests, which are another way to learn about what's in the unconscious. So these type of projective tests, the idea is that you have something in your unconscious and you're going to project it onto this test. So there's the Rorschach ink blot test and the TAT, or the thematic apperception test. So the Rorschach and the thematic apperception test are a series of cards, maybe 15 or 20. The Rorschach is just a blot of ink, and the TAT are ambiguous pictures. Ambiguous meaning it's not clear what's going on in the picture. There might be a person doing something, but it's not clear how the person feels or what exactly they're doing. So it's ambiguous. So the person can project their own unconscious onto those images. So those are called projective tests, the Rorschach and the thematic apperception test. Freud had some followers, 3 important ones. Again, I'm sorry, but I don't have time to do them in this video, but you should know them: Jung, Ornay, and Adler. So Jung, Ornay, and Adler. Make sure you look those up. But I do want to mention why Freud was criticized, because on the one hand, he's this genius. On the other hand, he's criticized. So what's wrong with his theory? Well, there's 3 main criticisms. One is that you can't verify his theory through experimentation. We can't do an experiment to tell whether traumatic events in childhood cause psychological problems in adulthood. We just can't design an experiment to do that. It's hard to design experiments to verify the existence of the id, ego, and superego, or the defense mechanisms. So another problem with this theory is that a good theory predicts behavior, but Freud's theory doesn't really predict. It explains past behavior, but it can't really predict future behavior. So that's a problem. The last one is that it relies on a subjective interpretation of events. So the therapist or the individual has to interpret dreams or interpret childhood memories and draw meaning from that, and that's subjective. So it's not scientific, it's not objective, it's not fact, it's interpretation. Okay, so those are the criticisms of Freud. Can't verify through an experiment, you can't predict behavior, and it's subjective interpretation. Even with those criticisms, though, most people would still consider the guy to be a genius for the work that he did and how he affected our understanding of humanity. At any rate, that's it. If you have any questions, see me in class. This video should prep you for the test well, the semester test, and the AP test. So this should be good for all of those reasons.